Fellas, Season 3 of Marvel Rivals is here, and that brought in a ton of hero changes from the last season. Some big and some small, but all still impactful nonetheless. Now, it shouldn't need to be said, but Ultron is better than you think, and he's been out long enough where the game won't be decided on who plays him better, so he shouldn't be one of the ban picks anymore. So the only thing left to figure out is where the supports fall on the meta tier list. So let's get into it. Wow, when was that last year? July 4th. Almost 2 weeks ago. And I left Squirgle and C. It must have been for DPS. But this is going to be for a tier list for the supports. Mantis got changed a lot. Somehow Cloak and Dagger is still just kicking. We're looking at the supports. Support tier list for Season 3. Not much has really changed in terms of the supports. And I know that Spider-Man kind of got a nerf. I know that, actually he got a pretty bad one. I know that, who was it, Black Panther? I know a lot of complaints have been going on about him, especially with the hit reg fix. That was a shadow fix that they didn't really talk about. But all in all, supports are more or less the same. I know Loki got nerfed a little bit. And Rocket's still pretty hurting. Two things, just in case you're watching the video at any point in time. Well, Rocket has a team up with Penny. You don't need to ban Penny. Penny on her own isn't that great. Penny with Rocket is very, very gross. You don't need to ban Penny, ban Rocket. A much better pick. But starting off with the tier list for supports, actually, you know what? I changed my mind. I don't think any of them particularly are D. But a nice, solid, easy pick has been since Season 0, has been up till now. Luna Snow. Now, I didn't play a lot of Luna Snow in the beginning, so I only really came across the ability recently, but her ice snowball shot, the one that freezes, actually gives her some bonus health. So I don't know if that was a recent change or not. It kind of got a lot going on, but it is very nice. She's very strong, good healing. Her ice arts ability, the ice daggers, does a lot of good healing, especially in an area, does a lot of damage in an area. Her ultimate, again, is like the most broken thing in the game. Honestly, there's not much more you could ask for from a support. And then if your team is doing a push rather than just trying to survive or defending, she has her damage side of things, which is also very good if your team has proper communication. Maybe a little bit less of a charge ultimate you could ask for, but for how long it lasts and how gross it is, seriously, I don't think you could justifiably, reasonably ask for anything else. Otherwise, she'll be a easy ban all the time. Although I do think if you aren't playing her, you should ban her. Speaking of someone who will never be banned, Jeff. Unless it's a target ban. Jeff has a nice rework. I'll say it. I liked how he was before. I think he's more beneficial now. More people are more open to playing with him. If you get a good Jeff on your team, and I think that's the key word, he can do fine in a 2 support meta, or a 2-2-2 comp. Really good healing. He does some good damage. Not necessarily the best for getting picks, I find, but you do pick up Pixel on the way just because your spray goes everywhere. They really need to change up some of his abilities. I think his underwater time is fine. If you play it right, it's not a problem, but he needs more. I think he needs more with his bubbles. He doesn't have good enough healing output, and his bubbles kind of suck with the healing over time with the no real burst healing. I do think they were too broken before, because if your tank was down low or whoever you're trying to heal was down low, you could just shoot out 5 bubbles at them and then they're back to full health like nothing. Also, his water shots kind of suck now. You get 3 and you gotta try to juggle someone and spray them at the same time to really get a pick. I know that supports aren't really the best for going out on their own to get picks, but you get dived, so you need to have something. He's alright. He has a nice team up with Storm that's ridiculous. A lot of ways to counter it, just people don't do it often. And he can be tough to kill if you play evasively as well. They really knocked him down quite a few pegs, but you'll be fine if you have a decent Jeff player or a decent support player. Someone who is still great, even with his recent nerf, is Loki. Can't really say too much about Loki. He's been fantastic since people really learned how to play him very early on. I don't think he was too popular in Season 0, or at least the first little bit of it, but he got picked up and is great to use. Gets his ultimate faster than Luna, so if you have a Luna on your team or in the game, you could have 2 Luna ults With his clones, he can get out a ton of healing or damage. Big problem is it can be tough to aim at the flyers if they're not by walls. But if your flyer is just up in the air, not by cover, that's kind of a whole other issue. The reason why he's not higher than Luna is, yes, he can copy Luna's ult, but you can't copy an ult of someone not in the game. But he has more versatility. He could do DPS or Vanguard ults. I've won a couple games with him by copying Captain America and stalling a point. I think a lot of people tend to see just, okay, I'm a support character, I need to copy a support ultimate, and they don't fully utilize him to the best that he can be. Next one I see here is Rocket. Rocket I think is a solid B healer. He was a heal bot up until the last little bit, and now he is better with his ultimate thankfully, and he does have a really good team up with Penny, and I find a lot of maps are actually really well designed for Rocket where he can get a ton of healing, a ton of random just like stray healing, and then if someone is up close, especially a Vanguard, he melts them, which I think is underappreciated. On top of that, every 45 seconds he can revive someone. His survivability is okay. They nerfed it. I think they should bring that back because he can't do much aside from dash like 8 feet away. His utility primarily is bringing someone back every 45 seconds, which is really good. And then a ton of random stray healing. Not great at solo focused healing, but he's the only one that can do like a Gator comp. Also, I know it can be kind of tricky with his ultimate. It's line of sight based. So you could place his ultimate, I think up to 50 meters away. And as long as someone can see it, they will get the benefits of it if they're on your team. You do not need to place that thing out in the open because it gets destroyed pretty fast these days. I knew it would happen eventually, I just didn't think it would happen that fast, but still pretty solid. Here we go. Someone who I thought was up high once and now is a little bit lower is Mantis. They nerfed the, the healing comp? I'm not sure what to really call it. With Adam Warlock, so now it takes just a little bit longer, which isn't a huge problem, but is something to keep note of. Her damage is pretty solid. Her shots fire kind of weird, which can be a problem, but her damage is really good. I also liked the track they're going on with her healing. I think it needs to be tinkered just a little bit more to make her really, really good. But right now it is pretty solid, pretty fine. But if the enemy team starts focusing on one person at a time rather than 6v6, it's 6v1 and then going from there. Mantis is pretty obsolete, or even 2v1. It doesn't need to be all 6. Her healing it is better, it's just not good enough. Same thing with her ultimate, it's fine. But how do you justify 150 healing for 8 seconds over, 250 healing for 12 seconds? Yeah, your team can move a little bit faster, but if you're using the ultimate, that's not really a huge thing. It'd be different if like the enemy team was slowed down or your team moved faster than what it is now. So I think she's good, she's just not there yet. Not enough for S tier. Better than some of the other characters, just not enough yet for S tier. But someone who I think is really underappreciated is Cloak and Dagger in S tier. Might be a little controversial, I get it, but a good Cloak and Dagger has really, really good healing output between her daggers and her healing area of effect and her wall. They're stupidly good. They get off a ton of healing. Her ultimate is also very good with the 4 lanes for, I think it's 8 seconds as well, but you get 4 lanes so it lasts longer than 8 seconds. On top of that, if they are being attacked, they have the cloak form, the guy form, where you have an ability to cloak everyone and survive ultimates. Deals pretty solid damage, as well as setting at the wall to do a 24 or 28% damage debuff. They offer a lot of utility. They have ways to get away, ways to survive, a really good ultimate, good healing output if the person is good. I think for a lot of people, they, again, tend to play with supports who are not good support characters or good players at playing support. And that's why a lot of people do hate on Cloak and Dagger, but they are really, really, really good. They're also supposed to get a team up with Blade, I believe, next season. Spoiler alert if you didn't know that. Not that that changes anything right now, but it's still kind of cool to think about. Someone who is on par with Cloak and Dagger, still in the S tier, is Inviswoman. Why can Cloak and Dagger be a little bit better? Cloak and Dagger has her tracker ability with her daggers, so they kind of lock on to targets if they're close enough. Can make it a little bit complicated to try to select certain people, and she has an easy time with hitting flyers in the air. Woman, not so much. She can throw up her shield, which is very good, but if it's broken, then you can't throw up the shield. She shoots at her shots. I'm not even sure what they're called. Her pulse beams that come back that hit or heal for a good amount and then come back and hit and heal for another amount, although it is a little bit lower the second time around. Good crowd control abilities with her push and pull, but her ultimate is what I think is just a bit better because you use them more so in a fight rather than trying to take space like Cloak and Dagger. And I find you have a little bit better time to try to survive it because you can double jump so you turn invisible in case someone is targeting you to kill you in your ult. But it slows down enemies that are in it. It makes the enemy team not be able to see. And so if they are someone like Cloak and Dagger, they're not hitting their shots. It's very odd how it works. And then if your team is in it, they get a ton of healing. Shouldn't die. If you're targeted by a bunch of people, you will, but you shouldn't die. Woman is a very strong character. I think their skill ceiling is a ton higher than Cloak and Dagger, but just as a general, because I think a lot of support players just aren't the best, Cloak and Dagger I think just is better for them. If there was a lot of skilled players, Woman would easily outshine Cloak and Dagger, but she doesn't offer like debuffs or anything like that either. So they all have their own special traits and abilities that you could take advantage of. But I do think the Cloak and Dagger is S. I know that for a fact, Woman is an S. It really comes down to what your skill is. And then, oh my god, I forgot Ultron. I don't even know where I'd put Ultron. I can't decide if Ultron is A or B. It's actually very tough to figure out. I think he is better off in A, especially last season, and then someone now. I think he's better than Mantis too. With Ultron, a lot of games came down to whose Ultron was better, your team's or the enemy team's, and that caused a lot of problems, and it was easier just to ban Ultron rather than have the game be decided by that. His healing output is not the greatest, but it kind of plays a similar effect to Rocket, where it's a slower healing over time, kind of similar to Mantis. You know what? I think his healing is more similar to Mantis, although Mantis you can spread out. But with Ultron, it does healing over time in an area of effect, and then constantly goes. You don't have to constantly be firing his healing bot. On top of which, he does have his overshield ability that gives himself and whoever has the healing drone, and then anyone close by, overshield that if the enemy shoots at you, they don't get ult charge, which is very nice. Great for survivability. His speed boost was nerfed, I believe. Really wasn't the biggest thing towards him. But his attack ability is, his basic attack is incredibly strong. Good for picking off people. Good for getting in damage. A good Ultron is definitely a pain in the butt. But I think a lot of people heard, especially at the beginning of last season, that Ultron was going to suck. He wasn't going to be good. And they didn't give him a proper chance. And then especially if you're dealing with a lot of like Hela, Punisher, Hawkeye too. If you're flying, don't choose a flyer into that comp. But he is very strong. His ultimate is, again, an ultimate that just isn't great. Yes, you can kill enemy vanguards with his ultimate. You can get picks with his ultimate. It's better, I find, to use it as a healing ultimate, but I think it's one of the shortest in the game, and it just isn't good. However, the rest of his abilities are good, which I think puts him right in the A tier list, better than some of the other supports. But if they fixed up his ultimate, I think he'd be a good contender to either be at least like top of the line A or very, very bottom of S. Also, he has to team up with Iron Man, who got nerfed, so what can you do? For his Unibeam healing laser, great for healing, decent against the enemy team. But for the most part, you just plop down your healing drone, stay by it if you need healing, and pick off the enemy team. That's a great support. Nothing complicated there, and his flying actually feels really nice. I think that was like the first thing I noticed about him. And then, oh, yeah. And then last up, we do have Adam Warlock, who I think is better than Jeff, but he's not a great support by any means. He can get incredible saves, get off good burst healing, like every 12 seconds. It does go on a cooldown if you get a headshot, but you have to land headshots, which can be a pain. He's actually very offensive, and I do like that. While he shouldn't hang out in the front line, he can take out like the Doctor Strange shield, melt down the Hela ultimate, very strong. And his soul bond is no laughing matter as well. But his ultimate when it works is the most beautiful thing you could ever ask for. Brings your whole team back, you can get everyone healed up. Second team fight and the enemy team use their ults. Great. Majority of the time though, what happens is you bring your team back and then they all get killed right away. I think it's kind of a mix between a bad Adam Warlock call and just the enemy team kind of sweeping. But if you can get good headshots, your healing output will be great. You can stay alive fairly easy. You can heal yourself, which I think is very important. And he is very dive resistant. Not anti-dive, he's not going to be someone to counter the divers. But if you are being dived by Black Panther, Spider-Man, whoever, you use your healing ability, you heal yourself back up, you're good to go. I don't think there's much more you could ask for from, well, actually there's a lot more you could ask for. I think he's one of my favorite supports. I think he was my first or second Lord, but there's just a lot to ask for from Adam Warlock. I think in the future I don't think he needs to rework as much as to change the team up, because the revive team up is great by all means. You get to revive yourself as well as two teammates, but there just needs to be something different. Whether they buff up his healing somewhat or damage, something like that. Because if I had a Adam and a Jeff on my team, I assume I'm going to lose. If I have an Adam and a Ultron on my team, I assume I'm going to lose. Adam Warlock is quite literally by far the only support character that I feel needs to be on a 3 healing comp. You can get by without it. It doesn't have to be a 3 healing comp, but you're going to have a much better time. None of the other supports I feel that way. They all can be done well in their own right, but Adam Warlock just doesn't have enough healing output to really justify it. You can get a ton of healing, and it is possible, but those are going to be done by like really skilled players or against a team that's not the greatest. And that is all the supports. Yeah, great. So that is what I think is the tier list of supports for Season 3 in Marvel Rivals. I know Cloak and Dagger can be a interesting pick. Same thing with Ultron, but they are really good if they are played right. Adam Warlock is not a throw pick per se, but unless you're doing the revive comp, he's not great. And then Jeff, well, I do love Jeff and I'm a big fan of Jeff. There's better choices. So Jeff is a fun and good pick. There's just better choices to play. And if you're playing ranked, which this is the format, this is what the list is about, Jeff really isn't the guy. You can do really well with him if you are skilled with him by all means, but there shouldn't be a reason why you're not playing Luna and Loki, unless you're getting dived a lot, then maybe, but I think that's good for that. Yeah, nothing else I can really say. A lot of changes I would do though. Adam, a little bit to Jeff, a little bit to Rocket, a little bit to Mantis and Ultron. Not so much for the S tiers, I think they're fine where they are, but when you want to change over half of the supports, it's not great. And that's a wrap on this Marvel Rivals tier list. Tell me, did I get any wrong or you think someone should be in a different spot? Let me know in the comments below. And hey, hit that like button if you're still watching, subscribe for more videos like this if you haven't already, and stay tuned for the next one. YouTube thinks you like this video next? Let me know if you do.